The crack of knuckles on bone cut through the cold air of Cypress Street. Sharp and absolute patrolman Victor Graves, a 15-year veteran molded by habit and hardened assumptions, believed he was restoring order. In his mind, this was routine. Another faceless encounter in a part of the city he considered rotten beyond saving what he did not know, and what would soon shatter everything he believed about power, was that the man bleeding onto the pavement was Elias Caldwell, one of the most influential figures in Ethelburg. Cypress Street had been branded revitalizing by officials, yet Graves saw only decay. His partner officer Lena Reed noticed the solitary man near the iron fence of the abandoned Oak Haven Center, calmly photographing the structure. She spoke first, reminding Graves that taking pictures was legal. Graves disagreed, convinced the man was casing the area. Without waiting, he stopped the cruiser and blasted the spotlight forward. The man did not flee or panic. He merely raised a hand against the light. That composure irritated Graves more than fear ever could. He approached fast authority, already sharpened into aggression. The man greeted him politely, voice controlled, educated, and steady. Graves demanded an explanation. The answer was simple, almost casual admiration for old architecture. Graves scoffed and pointed to the small satchel on the ground. The man listed its contents calmly and asked whether there was a reason for the confrontation. That question landed poorly. Graves stepped closer, smelling clean soap instead of desperation, and demanded identification. The man explained he did not carry it and had committed no crime. Graves pressed for a name. Elias Caldwell. The name did not register. Graves ordered him to face the fence. The refusal was firm but respectful. Elias explained that without probable cause, he would not submit to Graves. This was defiance. He shoved Elias into the iron bars and shouted that he was resisting. Elias warned him that he had just committed battery. Rage erased judgment. Graves drew back his fist, the heavy ring glinting briefly, and struck. The sound echoed horribly. Elias fell, blood darkening the concrete. Reed shouted Graves's name and reached for her radio. Graves cuffed Elias roughly, shouting about resistance, already building a false narrative. Sirens approached. A black government sedan screeched to a halt. Two suited men exited, weapons half-drawn, ordering Graves to stand down. Confusion turned to dread as one agent identified the injured man as Mayor Caldwell. Time seemed to stop. Elias lifted his head, eyes burning with restrained fury. Graves felt his world collapse. At Central Precinct, the atmosphere turned funereal. Graves sat alone in an interrogation room, typing and deleting lies that could not survive reality. Police Chief David Miller entered quietly and asked a single question about why Graves struck the mayor. Graves offered excuses about aggression and refusal to comply. Miller interrupted, explaining that Officer Reed's body camera recorded everything. Every word, every shove, every punch. Graves felt his breath leave him. Miller ordered him to surrender his badge and firearm and placed him on immediate suspension. In another room, Elias sat upright despite the pain, a clean bandage across his nose. The city attorney and senior staff reviewed the footage in silence. The evidence was brutal and unmistakable. Profiling, escalation, assault. When asked how he wished to proceed, Elias did not raise his voice or threaten. He said the matter would be handled by the law and nothing else. Orders followed swiftly. Graves would be arrested. Reed would be protected. The footage would be preserved and released. As night gave way to dawn, preparations moved through the city with quiet precision, and the consequences set in motion promised to reshape far more than one man's fate. 9 a.m. press conference became the most viewed local event in Ethelburg's history. Angelina Wu's statement was concise. Officer Victor Graves had been arrested and charged with felony assault with a deadly weapon due to his ring-enhanced fist, violation of oath of office, and filing a false police report. And then the video played, the brutal and completely unprovoked assault, looping across every major network. Victor Graves, released on his own recognizance after a humiliating 3 a.m. UAM booking, was at home when the broadcast hit, his phone exploding with messages as he turned on the television and saw his own face, contorted with rage, his fist crashing into the mayor's face again and again, and within hours his quiet suburban street transformed into a circus of news vans and protesters chanting justice for Elias, his union representative. Bill the Bulldog Donahue finally reached him and exploded in fury, telling him there was no edit, no lunge, no justification, that the district attorney was offering a plea deal of second-degree assault in 5 years, warning that federal civil rights charges were being discussed. But Graves screamed back that it was entrapment and that he was the victim, only for Donahue to call him radioactive before hanging up. The following 3 months dismantled Graves piece by piece. As the blue wall of silence collapsed, colleagues vanished, and the undeniable truth settled in, that his victim was not an anonymous civilian, but the mayor himself. The final blow came at home when his wife, Serafina, after watching the video, packed her bags, no longer able to ignore the hatred revealed so clearly on the screen. Graves stumbled in drunk one night, raging about betrayal and conspiracies, and found her zipping a suitcase, demanded to know where she was going, and was told calmly that she was leaving, because she would not stand beside a man the world had seen for what he truly was. He smashed his fist into the wall near her head and shouted that he was not a monster, but she did not flinch and told him he believed himself a god, when he was only a bully who had finally assaulted the wrong man, and when he begged her not to leave because he was losing his pension and facing prison. She said she hoped he would go to jail and walked out, leaving him sobbing alone as protest chants echoed outside. The trial of the people versus Victor Graves became a 6-week public spectacle, with prosecutor Elena Rodriguez relying not on theatrics, but on the video itself. Officer Reed testifying with controlled precision about the sound of the punch she described as the sound of a crime, and Chief Miller confirming 14 prior excessive force complaints that had been internally dismissed. Mayor Caldwell took the stand with a faint white scar on his nose, visible to all, calmly correcting the defense when they accused him of non-compliance by explaining that refusing to surrender constitutional rights was not defiance but citizenship. The defense made a catastrophic decision by putting Graves on the stand, where under cross-examination he finally erupted and screamed that the mayor was a threat because he would not submit a word. It froze the courtroom as Rodriguez repeated it slowly and exposed the truth, that this case had never been about safety or law, but about control. The jury deliberated for 45 minutes before returning guilty verdicts on all counts, and sentencing day arrived cold and final. As Mayor Caldwell, Detective Reed, now promoted for her integrity, and a devastated Serafina sat in the gallery, while Judge Annabelle Price stared down at the trembling man in orange. She rejected his apology as self-serving, told him he was not a victim of stress, but the source of it, a bully with a badge who had terrorized his beat for 15 years, and declared that when he testified about submission, he revealed the horrifying core of his actions, sentencing Victor Graves to 5 years for perjury, 5 years for violation of oath, and 10 years for felony assault to be served consecutively. Graves screamed that he was being set up and had to be restrained, as he was dragged from the courtroom, still shouting that he was the victim. And the hard karma closed around him as he was transferred to maximum security prison, stripped of power and identity. Eislerberg, however, moved forward as mayor. Caldwell used the moment to pass the Caldwell-Reed Public Trust Act, mandating body cameras, independent review, and a duty to intervene. While Reed LED, the new training program in the city, having seen the truth without filters, began to rebuild its trust, knowing the cost had been terrible, but the reckoning unavoidable.